Hey there, love. Welcome to the Reignited Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today I have a very special guest, Denise Calabrese, who is an HR professional. She's been in the field for well over a decade now, and today she's going to talk about reigniting your career. So she's going to tell us a little bit about her story, how she got to where she is in her career today, and give us some tips and tricks. I'm going to step in and help, give some tips and tricks on resumes and transitioning into different fields, because that tends to be something that a lot of people are doing nowadays when they're finding their passion. Right. We're going to chat about that. But side note, Denise is my mom. She's my mama.
Yes, I am.
So I just want to thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. I'm very blessed to have you being on my podcast. And Denise is not from here. She's from Las Vegas. So she is in town. So again, just a amazing experience having you here, Mom. It's awesome.
Thank you for, I'm so happy to be here. This is my first experience doing any type of live recording podcast. So, I have to tell you, the room is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The atmosphere is very mellow and warm and inviting. So thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. So let's get started. Denise is going to take us on this journey. Denise, what has it been like starting in your career and transitioning fields? Because she does have experience transitioning over from healthcare, customer service type positions to HR.
That's right.
So take it.
So, my career actually did start, as Jen mentioned, in the healthcare field as a medical assistant. And then I rolled into customer service and from there went into like an executive assistant type position. But in these positions, I found that there was one thing that kind of remained the same. And that was I was helping people in every single role that I've held. Yeah. And kind of really fell into the HR role just by accident. So I was asked by a CEO that I was working as an executive assistant for. He was just starting a new company here in Orland Park. And he says, oh, well, I really need an HR person. So guess what? You're our new HR person.
Wow.
And I had some previous experience with recruiting and interviewing, training. So I thought, okay, how hard could this be? Well, At that time, there was no LinkedIn really, right? That you could reach out to resources and leverage any of those to your advantage to ask for help. Right. So it was up to me just to go online, and I was looking like, what does HR do? And how do I make a filing system for new employees? I mean, we started out fresh, Jen. So there were only about 4 people working in the company at the time: accounting, a controller, the CEO himself, and of course me. So it was a while ago too. So I'm kind of doing some research here in my memory. But it was a very small office. We had to hire on 20 people. We had to hire a customer service team, a marketing team, an internet team.
Wow.
I mean, the business itself was all online. So I had no idea what these people do. So I had to go out there and look at different resumes so I can understand how to put a job description together and post it to hire people in these different areas.
Right.
And it was funny because I was so determined to prove myself that that's exactly what I did. I went out, I started looking at, researching different job descriptions. Pretty much everything I did was research on my own. And it really came together. And then I had to put a comprehensive benefit package together, and what fun that was. But what really helped me, though, is my previous healthcare experience, knowing about, healthcare and insurance, learning all of that. And it was a great success.
I know that you said they kind of transitioned you over into HR, but was there ever any interest there? Just your experience, it seems like, to be doing all that and taking initiative to research and really not just proving yourself, but I think you from what I'm getting, you had some interest in it and learning more, because let's be honest, if we don't have some type of passion for something or motivation to do something, then it's really hard to get into it, especially when you're like your boss in this instance is telling you, I want to transition you into HR.
Right.
And I mean, for you though, that's still moving up in your career. That's a step up, just from a regular, executive assistant position.
Right.
So, I mean, that had to have been exciting, but from what you're saying too, it was a lot of work because that wasn't necessarily your background coming in.
Exactly. And like I said, I was kind of thrown into that position.
Yeah.
Not something I was looking for, but just rolled with the punches and found that, yes, I was passionate about it. And I think it falls back to, like I said, the whole customer service bit that the CEO needed help, figuring something out, making a plan, and then having it all come together. And so I really found it for me to be quite interesting. I loved doing the research. I loved, putting things together, putting big plans together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really stirred my interest in HR. And at that time decided, I'm getting my bachelor's degree in business administration and with a concentration in human resource management.
So that ultimately triggered you to go to school, get the degree, and get the experience in terms of education,
right,
in order to excel in HR. And see, that's an amazing thing. And just kind of a side note, because we do talk about what is meant to be and things like that. So I think that ultimately plays a big role. Like, you're going to end up where you're meant to be. Like, God had a plan for you, even though you didn't have that plan for yourself.
That's right.
That wasn't where you pictured yourself. That's ultimately where you landed. And that's just amazing. It's so cool to see when you look back on it, right?
Right.
Where you're at now, when you look at where you started and how you got there. So.
Yes. And from that moment forward, I wound up, moving on to several other companies and continued in that HR role.
Yeah.
Right. So as an HR administrator, and then I did a lot of recruiting and as an HR recruiter. And, when you look at HR as a field, there are so many different disciplines within that field. And my whole goal back then was, I really want to be a leader. I really want to manage a department. And I feel that I have that capability and the passion to do that. And again, it's really about where your passion is, because as Jen mentioned, right, you're not going to really be successful at something if you're not passionate about it.
Right.
You have to really want it. And so from there, it kind of spiraled. My husband retired, as you know, and then
happy.
Right. And we decided to move out to Las Vegas. And when I moved out there, I had already been a division manager, an HR leader, a recruiter, and coming out there found that I had to pretty much start all over again, right? Because nobody out there knew me. They didn't know who I was, what my work ethic was like. And it seems like when you move to a different state, and I've heard this before, is that it's hard to find work in your field because they don't know who you are and your experience as an individual. I really didn't believe that. I thought, if you have the experience, anybody's going to hire you, right?
Right.
But so I wound up getting... applying for a job as an HR coordinator. Wound up getting that job, and within 2 years was actually moved up to an associate relations manager in retail, food retail.
That's amazing. And that's like a totally different, I mean, I know you've worked for multiple companies, but I've experienced that too, working for very different companies.
Right.
So for you, it was like moving it now into like food distribution, which is new to you. So
absolutely
learning that, but you excelled, and that's amazing that you excelled so quickly in your career. But again, that's where that passion comes in, that motivation to want to do that, to really love what you do. And I think that's something I really want to mention to all of our viewers and our ladies, our beautiful ladies that are watching, is that it really find something that you're passionate about, especially if it's regarding your career.
Right.
Because I've been there where in the past I've done things for work that I wasn't passionate about, and it just becomes a daunting thing every day. It's like to get up
Right.
and to go to that job. So I just think it's so important to love what you do. And I know
Absolutely.
that may not always be realistic, because some people are like, well, Jen, well, what if I don't have the education, or I don't have this, or I don't have that? Trust me, if you want something, if you set your heart and your mind to something, and that's really what you know deep in your heart is what you're passionate about, what you're meant to do, God will bring you there. It will make a way. There will be a way to get to that point, whether it's applying for grants or scholarships, that additional education, or whatever it is that you need, right? So
exactly.
just kind of a side note there. But I think, again, that's one reason why you can be so successful in your career is not just obviously working hard, because you have to work hard. You have to
Exactly.
work your way up. That's just corporate America. That's how it works. But to have that passion makes it so much different, because you're enjoying what you're doing. You have that fire. It just ignites that, right? It reignites.
Exactly.
Reignites you and reignites that spark. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I agree 100%. If you're doing something and you're not passionate about it, what do you look at it like, right? You look at it like just a job.
Right.
And for me, it's never been about I have a job. It's I do what I love to do.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that if you have a passion to do something, if you have that fire, like I really love this, I really want to do this, and you wake up and you're happy and excited to do it every single day,
Yeah.
to me, that's God.
Yeah.
That is what God instilled in you to do. So that's part of your destiny. That's part of who you are. And you're going to be successful at it. Right. So he just works in mysterious ways, like they say.
Yeah.
You never know where you're going. Some jobs you may lose, and you look at them like, oh, well, I lost this job. You're feeling down on yourself. And I truly believe that you shouldn't, because they say everything happens for a reason. And I believe that.
Yes.
Opportunities come to you that are meant to be. And if you go off that path, if you steer from it, something's going to kind of nudge you and push you back on.
Right.
So, my experience in HR has just been wonderful. The people I've come across, the leaders I've met that helped inspire me along the way. And opportunities, like I said, have changed for me over the years, but in a good way, because I've always continued to see myself grow. So
Yes.
from an associate relations manager, I wound up going and moving up to an HR business partner now. And I really love that. I have a couple client groups that I specifically dedicate my time and experience to, keeping them in line and, helping them understand policies and change and training and helping them develop now.
Mentoring them.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's I think that's really important too. I think that when you have that spark and you're mentoring other individuals to become leaders, that's huge. And
Exactly.
you make an imprint on those people.
Right.
Just like a lot of the leaders that you've come across throughout the years made an imprint on you, and it affects in a positive way. It affects your work ethic, it affects your knowledge and all of those things. So I think
Right.
that's so important. But I just have to say, like, throughout the years, watching my mom grow in her career and just her work ethic, and that's really where I got mine from. One thing you always told me too is always follow your heart, always follow what you want to do, always follow your passion. And that's another reason why throughout my life that passion is such a big part of now Live Reignited and the Live Reignited movement, because you have to be passionate about what you do, love what you do, have that spark for life and what you're doing every day, especially as a job, something that's funding your family or helping you live life, right? Because you have to
Exactly.
have a job, but have a job that you love to do. So
Exactly.
but,
And I
yeah.
think the branding here, the Reignited, kind of infuses that to the point where if you're doing something today that you're really not happy with, right? You have a new day. The sun's going to rise tomorrow, right? No matter what. And tomorrow's a new day, which means it could be a new start to your life to go into a different direction.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and it could be a little scary.
It can
sometimes
be.
when you're taking that leap of faith. You
Right.
know, I know you've been there. I've been there now. Even with Live Reignited, I worked in marketing for a decade as well, and I worked my way all the way up up to almost a director level role and managing my own team. And I loved mentoring the people and what I was doing, but at the same time, I just wasn't fulfilled. I wanted more. I wanted more of the mentorship and, helping women, but not just in marketing. I wanted to help them in other areas, like areas that I struggled with. So, that's how I got here now, by the grace of God and making things, aligning things exactly how they needed to be and all of my experiences. But yeah, at the end of the day, it can be scary. My point is it can be scary,
yes.
But take that leap of faith,
It's faith
Just
over
do
fear.
it. Absolutely.
Faith over fear. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And leveraging your resources, right? We have so many resources out there nowadays.
Right.
LinkedIn is huge. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you definitely want to have one because you partner with so many different people in different areas. So if you want to go into another career, you're not happy with what you're doing, you're burnt out, or you just want to experience something new. And nowadays, things have changed so much to where you have a lot of moms that leave their job to raise their families, start their families.
Right.
Then they come back into the workforce and maybe they're feeling different about what they were doing before as to what they want to do now.
Yes.
And so leveraging those resources, reach out on LinkedIn and look for people in those areas of business.
Right.
And most people on there that I've come across and experienced are very helpful. They're going to give you advice. They're going to send you into a direction or say, hey, contact this person. I've seen it firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this person needs a job. A lot of people lost their jobs during COVID.
Yes.
Right? And they were actually kind of pushed out of one industry into another. And that was really big in Vegas. The entertainment world kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Everything went dark in Vegas.
Well, a lot of people lost their jobs
Exactly.
but then transitioning. I've seen that too.
Right.
A lot of people who are in entertainment are doing different things now. They're doing marketing or they're doing freelancing or they've
Right.
gone into a totally different field. And I think that's a perfect time to kind of transition and talk about transitioning into a field and then the resume tips, because what does that look like?
Right.
Like what if you're transitioning, how do you update a resume? And LinkedIn is also a big part of that as well. I am not only in marketing and have my MBA and all of that, but I'm a certified professional branding specialist. And the biggest thing that I was not only taught in my education and my certification process, but what I told a lot of my clients is the importance of LinkedIn and really intertwining your resume and LinkedIn, making sure that it coincides, that it, everything, it matches, but also including your LinkedIn profile link to on your resume.
Absolutely.
Before I get ahead of myself, we'll talk a little bit about transitioning fields.
Right.
So when you transition a field, I know we covered a little bit about what it looked like from your experience and a little bit about mine. What does that look like in, like, say, the corporate world? Like, say you are a customer service representative and now you weren't approached by, a senior leader in your workplace, and you decide that you no longer want to go into customer service, but you want to go into HR, or you want to go from healthcare to marketing, like what I did. What does that look like? How do you even go about that?
Well, there's a couple of different ways you can go about it, right? Again, leveraging resources.
Yes.
Right. So connecting with people that are in that field. And they're a dime a dozen. You just go on LinkedIn. It's very easy. You search medical assistant or, whatever title you're looking for, maybe it's a supervisor in distribution center, right? So leveraging your resources. LinkedIn is also very well known for their LinkedIn Learning. So there's a lot of free classes that you can take on there.
And certifications as well.
And certifications,
Yes.
absolutely, to kind of help you gain that knowledge and experience to get your foot through the door at an entry level. Right. And then look at job descriptions out there. Search for those with those titles that interest you and read through them. Okay, what is it that this job I'm going to be doing in this role? Well, what are the qualifications? What are the expectations? And from there, just going to maybe a udemy.com. I give that to all my supervisors and to all my managers because you can go on there and take classes for like $10.
Right.
And classes that have videos from real live professors that are in that corporate management role. They're working in the field now. And so that's the best person you could get that experience from. But then looking at going back to the job descriptions, looking at that job description and looking at your resume and saying, where does my experience fit with this role?
Right.
There's always some transferable skills that you take with you in every new position.
Exactly. So a lot of those skills, like what Denise is saying, is like reading through those job descriptions. You may already have those skills.
Right.
You may have already, tailored those skills in your previous position. So it's good to look at that and say, I have that already.
Right.
And then once you take all of the tips and tricks that, Denise is talking about,
Right.
and apply those, then that's when you transition over to your resume and you take those things and you look at your experience and you pull all of those specific, whether it's a skill set or whatever's in those job descriptions that you already have,
Right.
and you emphasize those on your resume. And then really it's about rewriting that resume for that job.
Right.
But again, utilizing what you already have, and then it doesn't have to be an expensive thing.
No.
You don't have to go get a master's degree. You may have to start at a more entry level position, but that's okay because you work in that role for a few years, you gain that knowledge, you take some certification classes, and a lot of times, a lot of companies will pay for that as well.
Exactly.
They'll pay for educational expenses for you to move up or to transition into different positions. So make sure you're always looking at whatever companies you're working for, if you're currently already working for a company, what those benefits are. And the best person to go to is your HR manager or HR representative or HR business partner.
That's right.
Because they'll be able to give you all of the information you need, especially about the educational expenses and reimbursement.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't know, right? I mean,
They don't know.
That's something you can probably speak on, is how many of your employees come to you or that you go to them and say, hey, did you know that we had this? Did you know that we reimburse for educational expenses or all of that? As someone who has worked for corporate companies before, big companies and small ones, not everyone knows. They don't always read the benefits packages or the handbooks.
They really
so
don't.
You don't really know what you have available to you. So just make sure if you ever have any questions about that, you go to your HR professional and they will definitely help.
Absolutely. And, a lot of the times you'll notice too, right? When you onboard with a new company, HR kind of walks you through all of that.
Right.
But a lot of people forget because a lot of those benefits don't start on day one. You have to wait 30, 60, 90. A lot of the educational reimbursement programs start at 6 months or longer. So by the time that time comes around, right, you forget. You've forgotten all about that. And so it is really the responsibility of, the person inquiring, right? HR is not going to come back and remind you of these things, but we do remind you to make sure that you're paying attention to your company's social media, intranet, because all of that's listed. But always reach out before you decide to take on any educational, financial journey so that you're aware of what the benefits are in your current company. When changing careers, you look at your resume and you're like, well, I'm looking at this role. I don't know what this person does. But there are online resources that you could also leverage, like online resume builders.
Yes.
Right? You can search out there and it will actually help you build your resume to the position that you're interested in. It will give you tasks and roles, responsibilities that pertain to that specific job role.
Yeah.
So that's also very helpful. Or to your point,
So another option is it's usually not very costly, but it's definitely an investment sometimes, but working with whether it's a resume writer or a professional branding specialist.
That's right.
They really help. And what they do is, and this isn't just if you're transitioning into, a new field, but if you're looking to revamp your resume and you just need some assistance, they're great. They're a great resource. They can look at your current resume and potentially what you want whatever position you're looking to go into. If you're transitioning to a different field, they can look at that too and say, and give really good suggestions and feedback on what your resume should look like.
Exactly.
And you work together, you partner together. So they put whatever it is that you're comfortable putting on there and how you want to be branded, and then they will complete it for you. They'll do the final touches and everything to make your resume stand out, which is so important when you're looking for a new career, or you're just looking to transition, or whatever the case is. But I do want to mention that Live Reignited, if you go on to livereignited.com and you go to services, we actually do provide professional branding services, not only just individual, but for if you're a small business owner, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to start a business or branding, we do offer that. So we do, we'll look at your resume, we'll look at, what needs to be updated. We'll give you feedback. So we do have packages on that if you're interested. I'll leave the links in the description box below, or in the show notes if you're tuning in or listening on one of the other podcast platforms. So this way you have access to it. But yep, definitely a good resource as well.
Right.
So,
but one thing I want to mention that's really, really important is that when a recruiter looks at your resume, or or an HR manager, what are we looking for? We look at your resume no longer than 10, 15 seconds. That's how fast it is.
Right.
And if you don't sell yourself well within the first paragraph, you're done, right? Because nowadays we have like thousands of resumes that we go to for every position. There's so much competition out there.
Right.
So it's really important to make sure that you are matching your resume to that potential job that you're looking at.
Right. Branding yourself and your experience.
Exactly.
And
it should be a mirror of what you want to be, as if you already held that position, if you have that position right now.
And I just want to add that it matches that job description.
Right.
So make sure when you are, this is a big tip, and I think a lot of people don't know this, is that when you're applying for jobs, look at that job description, and it's a little bit daunting because you have to do this. I really highly suggest doing this for every position you're applying for. I mean, obviously, if it's pretty much the same description and the same things that the employer's looking for, then you can use that same copy.
Right.
But definitely tailoring, and make sure you're branding yourself based on their job description, because I think one thing I want to mention too, not only do live human HR managers and HR professionals look at those resumes, sometimes it's not you that sees it right away. Sometimes it's the programs, it's the recruiting software that will pull the resumes, because I mean, if you're getting hundreds of resumes, thousands of resumes, it's not possible for an HR professional to be looking at every single resume. So a lot of times there's a software that's pulling your resume and your information, and it's detecting, it's looking for specific keywords within your resume.
That's right.
And if it doesn't find those keywords, it's going to dismiss your resume, and you're not going to be considered for that position. So just make sure you keep that in mind. That's a really, really number one. That's a top tip, I think, that a lot of people don't know either, is that it's not always a human that's viewing it first. So that's why keywords and branding and resume writing, doing it properly, is so important. And that's why I really think that if you don't have a lot of experience doing that, it's good to have, I mean, the resume builders are great. They're great tools if you feel like you can do it on your own.
Right.
But having a professional come in and help is really such a huge asset, because then you're really going to position yourself the way you need to. They're going to make sure it's SEO optimized, and all the keywords that need to be in there for those jobs, or that specific job is going to be in there. So
Absolutely. It's definitely worth a small investment, because then from there on, if you decide to change jobs or whatever that looks like for your future, you can always just go in and kind of just give it that nice little facelift.
Right.
Or, just change things up a bit. So Yeah,
Absolutely.
most definitely.
Well, great. This was awesome. I hope that you all got some really good information. I hope you guys took notes. And if you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comment section. We would love to answer any questions that you have in terms of
Absolutely.
career.
Sure.
But I want to thank you so much, Mama. Thank you for being on the podcast
Thank you. I appreciate it.
sharing your
baby girl.
experience and everything. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun.
So did I.
All right, loves, thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you have a blessed rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I'm certified. Get it. Cut, Jen. Get it right. Spit it out. We appreciate. You see, now I'm going to.
Okay, well, thank you, loves, for tuning in today. Be sure to check the boxes with all the LinkedIn.
Oh my goodness. Bloopers. I should do a blooper reel
You
at the end.
should.
This is going to be great. Oh my goodness.